writers very specifically. So I just want to talk about how maybe that's not as much of a choice as you think it is. I want to start with my story though, my author journey a little bit. Like I said, kind of introducing this, I've really been through every part of the writer journey. I was self-published like long time, like not even a long time ago. I was self-published. I've been published by an indie. I've been published by the majors. So I have an interesting journey. But before I even get there, the first thing you should know about me is like I had a daughter as a teenager. So I have one child, still only one child, and I had her when I was super young. And I mentioned that because it when you have a child that young, it forces you to reprioritize everything. You know, when I was still in high school when I had my daughter. So it 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 forced me to really think about how can I earn faster than maybe normally, you know, and like get to money faster than maybe I would have thought if I didn't have a child at the time. And there are a lot of things that were really, really heavy and complicated having a child that young. But one of the things that it did was um it made me know exactly where I wanted to focus my energy. And I think like that is really the first step when you're jumping into being an author, when you're jumping into writing, just period, is like understanding the emotions of it and the energy of it and what those emotions and energy mean for you when you start sacrificing, you know? Um, my my decision to be an author was whole. Like I just said, I'm going to be an author, period. Right? Like, and I'm going to be successful at being an author, period. That that I made that decision. So once I made that decision, I was every decision I made after that was based on that commitment. Like, I'm going to be an author. Like, that's a commitment I made, right? So I ended up going to university, and after I graduated university, I had an opportunity to take a job in. I went to school in a university in Western New York. A school is called St. Bonaventure. And when I graduated, I got offered a job for like 80 grand. This was in 2008. So like $80,000. I'd have to move to New York City. And I turned that job down. And I turned it down for two reasons. Like one, I this was a lesser reason. I wanted to go back to Toronto because like again, I told you I had my daughter young, so it would have been a huge lift to like move my family to New York, and it wouldn't have been able to happen right away. And I had already been 4 years where I didn't see her as obviously as much as I wanted. So I want to go back to Toronto. But the main reason was I was focused on being an author. So that the energy that job would take from me would have totally like the commitment that job would have taken from me would have zapped all of my energy. Like I wouldn't have had any energy left. And I needed energy to learn how to write. I needed energy to like actually get the craft down. I needed energy to figure out um all of the things that I've learned throughout the years, building a readership, how to market, writing my first novel. Like I needed energy to do that. So I actually turned that job down and started doing, sorry, excuse me. Wow. I went back to Toronto. I came back to Toronto and started doing just odd jobs. So I worked as a janitor for about almost 2 years. I worked at a car rental agency where I cleaned cars for a little while. I worked at a bingo hall. I worked at a community center. I worked at a shoe store, a discount shoe store. Like making very little money, making because this is 2000 or like mid to so like late 2000s, so 2009, 2010, and so I'm making minimum wage, which was about $9 an hour here in Toronto. But what that allowed me to do was take the necessary time I needed to get good at writing. So every morning from 5 till whatever time I could write up until I would I would start writing, and I started working on my first novel, and I started, you know, like getting into that routine every single day. So even though I wasn't making a lot of money, um, again, I made that original commitment to myself that I'm like being an author is what I wanted to do. Being chasing this writing thing is what I wanted to do. So like again, these decisions are all based on that. So and to be like super clear, I was living on my own. Me and my girlfriend at the time were living together. Um, so I had rent to pay, and I just told you I had a child, so I had a child stuff to pay for. So I wasn't making these decisions lightly. Like I want to be super clear. Like these were very complicated decisions that I was making. But again, once you make that commitment to yourself, you have to figure out, all right, what does every other decision look like, and how does that fit into your life? And I'm not telling you to do what I did. I'm telling you what I did so that you could understand my thought process, so that you could maybe apply the thought process to your life, not my actions, my thought process. So I was doing those jobs over the years, and I was like learning how to write. I also realized very quickly that this book is going to take a long time. So I was like, how can I still write and make money? So how can I use my actual skill as a writer to make money? And YouTube wasn't as popular yet, so there weren't as many videos about you know um, how to make money as a writer and blah 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 blah. Like there weren't as many resources, so I had to kind of figure things out on the go on my own. And it was a little bit, it was tough, but I learned it. I learned it, and 1 year turned into 2 years, and I'm still learning. I'm still writing. By about 2014, 2013, 2014, that's the year I actually became a full-time freelance writer. So 2014, I'll say solidly, I became a full-time freelance writer. So now I'm freelancing full-time. I'm not doing those odd jobs that I mentioned before. Like all those odd jobs are done. I think the last odd job I had was actually as the janitor was the last odd job I had. Um, so those odd jobs are done, but now I'm like full-time writing, full-time doing ghostwriting, doing copywriting, working for marketing companies. Like that happened in about, let's say, 2014, where I ended up doing that full time. 2014 was also the year I published my first self-published book. And that was after 6 years of writing. If you count the time, I started writing that book in about 2007, 2008, and I published it in 2014, self-published it. That was 6 years. I learned so much about myself during those 6 years, including the fact that I actually did not know how to write a novel. And listen, when I say I did not know how to write a novel, I was a author since I was a child. I was writing, but I knew I wanted to be an author since I was 8. So I was always writing. So when I say I didn't know how to write a novel, I say that like with the utmost humility. Like I didn't realize how technical it was. I didn't realize how many different skills besides just storytelling I needed to have. So it was actually quite complicated for me to write a novel. And if you read my first novel, if you ever purchase it or read it, whatever, it's actually not even a full novel. It's a novella. It's only 72 pages because I just, again, I was learning, and I wanted to learn at a quick pace, but I also wanted to get it right. So I put out that novella in 2014, and then I started learning, like, okay, like I want people to buy this book. What do I have to do? Um, I learned about doing book launches, failed at my first book launch. 10 people came to my first book launch, and seven of those 10 people were my family members. So my first book launch went horribly. I learned about building readership and what it took. I made the mistake that um, thinking that all my friends knew I was a writer automatically. So they would all buy my books and stuff like that. I didn't feel like I needed to inform them about what was happening in my life and in my career. And that was a mistake. I learned that. I learned how long you need to actually promote and market to even get people's attention. Like I learned so much self-publishing that first book. So much. Um, but it was a journey, and it was an accomplishment. And I felt happy actually accomplishing that, f and the lessons I learned from that first self-published book, I took those lessons and applied it to my second self-published book, which was a book called Beauty Scars. And in learning the lessons, I realized, first of all, I needed to make sure I'm promoting like way before, right? Like 2 years before the book even came out, I started promoting. I had an art competition. These are stuff that are all in the newsletter, but I'm relaying some of these things here. I did an art competition with two high schools, artistic high schools here in Toronto, where they did a competition for the book cover. So the book cover you can actually see in the background here. Here is that cover. That one, boop, that is actually done by a 16-year-old. They won the competition. They won the competition, so they got to do my book cover. I did that. That was 2 years before my book was even out. I hadn't even finished writing the book yet. I think I finished maybe a first draft, and not even. I just gave them the title of the novel and like the first paragraph, and they were able to come up with artwork based on that. But it also built my readership. Like I started getting more readers because of that. Because again, once you connect with those schools and connect with those people, they all become followers and fans really quickly. So because of that experience that I shared with them, and I did other things too, like building up to the second to my book launch for my second self-published book. And again, during these times, I'm still actively making because I just want to make sure that everything I'm saying here is connecting back to the reason that you're here, passion versus paper, love versus money. Um, I just told you about how I started and all the odd jobs that I took on before I became full-time freelancer in 2014. Um, but now I'm a full-time freelancer in 2014, and my and I'm making decent money. I'm making enough money to like not just survive, but do pretty good. To do pretty good. So the the passion for me, the main goal at this point for me was at that point for me was still to be like full-time author. That was the goal, right? But I realized that I needed to have milestones, to set milestones for myself. So one of those milestones was being a full-time freelancer. Like so when I reached that in 2014, I was proud of myself. I was like, all right, Kurt, one milestone reached. What do you have to do next? And my next milestone was like I need to start publishing my book. So that's why I dropped the book that same year, 2004, 2014, dropped my first self-published book. 2017, dropped my second self-published book. Um, and so now I'm like hitting these milestones, right? And the first self-published book, I actually sold for a first self-published book, I sold a pretty decent amount. I sold like 1,000 or 2,000 copies, um, mainly through like connecting with the school board and stuff like that. But um, it wasn't enough to sustain myself. And remember, I had my ultimate goal. My ultimate goal is to full-time author, right? So it wasn't enough to sustain myself. But I was like, all right, good. I'm making progress. My second self-published book, I just told you how I started that one off. Like the book launch for the first one sucked, but the second book launch went extremely well. So like after the art competition I had that I just described, where I brought those two art high schools, they ended up um making my book cover. What I did was I took the art pieces from the leftover art pieces. So all the pieces that didn't win the competition, there were like 10 who were finalists, and I held an art show. And I had an art show in Toronto with all adults this time, obviously because I had not only an art show, but I made it like a all you can drink situation. So I got a wine sponsor, and I made people pay like it was $40 to come into the art show, but you get all you can drink wine. You got I made authors, not authors, actors read from my book, like the book that was coming out, the Beauty Scars book. I made actors read. They had food, so it was like you got an experience for $40. But then again, what the key to that was I was building readership and meeting people where they were. So I got everyone's email, and people who were not necessarily interested in reading but interested in art all came out. So again, I was able to connect my work to their likes and their hobbies and the things that they were passionate about. And now they're passionate not just about those things, but passionate about what I was producing as a creator, right? Because I met them where they were, which is I think was a super important lesson for me. I don't have to be so pressed to get people like read my book, read my book, read my book. No, like what do you like? What are you into? All right, you know what? Art, boom, here's an experience for you. So that was really crucial. Like it was a big lesson that I learned. So by the time this was like a year and a half now before my book was out, my second self-published book. So by the time we got to my book launch now, like it's game on. It was I had over 100 people show up. I sold over 90 books just that day. um, I really I took the launch so seriously. I hired a um what do you call it? It's an installation artist. I hired an installation artist to actually set up the room because I rented this there's a hotel downtown that's like a basically like an art hotel. They're super supportive to artists in downtown Toronto. And I did it there, and they like had the space that we decorated, like the interior, the artist decorated it for me, the installation artist, and it was like amazing. He did such a great job. We had the book was called Beauty Scars, so what he did was he got green tape, and we printed out my entire novel, like printed it out and ripped the pages in half and scattered them around the room. And then we had people we taped it up with green tape so it looked ugly in a way like what you would think of as ugly. And then we had people when they came in were like, all right, go ahead. You could like literally my entire novel is around the room, tell me what you like what's happening in this book, like so like it was an active experience for people. They were able to come to my book launch and not just sit back and like listen to me read. They were actually able to like go around the room and um read parts of the story that were out of order and ripped and all that stuff. And it was an experience. It was an interactive experience, and they remembered it. So that was huge, right? Like another lesson learned. Like people still talk about that with me today. And another thing I had them do on that book launch day was um sign this big piece of chart paper that I had. Remember, I'm still self-publishing at this point. I hadn't signed a book deal yet. I had them sign this like big chart paper, and I took a um. But I don't have video. No, I don't. I don't. I have some images, like pictures, photos, but I don't think I have any video from that. Oh, I do have a video of the person doing the reading because I typically don't do readings at my book launches. I let other people do it, and I do have a video of the person doing the reading. So maybe I'll share that. But it was really cool. Thank you. Yeah, it was amazing. Um, but yeah, it went off. Oh, sorry. Yeah, the chart paper that I was talking about. I had everyone sign a big piece of chart paper, and I snapped a photo of that, and I used that in the acknowledgments of the book. So when I reprinted the books, um, everyone that signed it, that they were actually put into the book. If you look at the back of Beauty Scars right now, you'll see that image with everyone's signature, or most of the people's signatures that was there, who were there. And I use that as my acknowledgement page. So again, just like giving people a different experience, something they could remember and hold on to, so that they don't just become fans of that book, they become fans of me because I gave them an experience that they'll never forget. So when my next book comes out, they're already hooked. It doesn't matter what the book is about, pretty much. Like they're going to buy it, they're going to read it because I wrote it, not because of what the book is, because I wrote it. Then if they like it, which we hope they do, they'll share it, right, and tell other people about it. So that was my second self-published book, and by that time, and I'm still studying the craft. I'm still working through it. This is passion versus paper, right? Like what are the decisions that we're making? Um, and here's here's a decision that I made again, to really to really push this point home. After my second self-published novel, I was like, all right, I am I want to be published now. Like I really do. I think for me that was an important step. Again, remember my ultimate goal, I'm going to keep reminding you, is to be a full-time author. Like just wake up every day, write books. I don't want to do anything else. Write for 3 or 4 hours a day and do whatever the heck I want after that. That's my ultimate goal, right? So after my second self-published book, I was like, okay, it's time for me to get published. I was freelancing. I was, I connected though to this creative agency. There's a creative agency in Toronto that connects you to jobs, like creative jobs. And they messaged me and they're like, "Hey, we have this position available at a bank. Writing there, the bank was trying to do was starting this new project where they would essentially be like a hub for small businesses, and they needed someone to do the copy for all the small businesses that they'd be either purchasing or creating." And I was like, I don't really want to work for a bank. Um, that doesn't sound very creative to me. But to their credit, the creative agencies like Kern like really consider this opportunity. It's not exactly what you think. Now, I listened to them and I went and I'll shorten the story. I took the interview and I actually took the job. It was a contract position, so I was still on contract. I technically wasn't full time yet. I was still on contract. But I made a decision. This job paid me, and you're going to learn something about me. I'm actually very open with talking about money, with amounts of money and everything. So this job paid me what was equivalent to about $120,000 to start, right? Just that contract alone. So I was like, wait a second. If I just do this job, right? I will be able to not do anything else because this is about 2017. I wouldn't have to do any other freelancing or much more freelancing. I could just do this job, which would allow me even more time and energy into figuring out how to take my next step as an author, which for me was to get published. And I needed that time and I needed that energy to get better, to find an agent, to query, but like we all know the process, right? I needed time to do that. So I took the job. I didn't completely stop freelancing. Like I still had a couple of freelance gigs on the side, but it freelancing is it's if you are a freelancer here, you know it's a lot of good stuff that you do. It's a lot of money chasing. It's a lot of admin work. Like it's a lot, and you're always looking for your next contract, and you're always working. I was on vacation working because like deadlines and clients and whatever. It's a lot. So to be able to put that aside and really focus my energy on the next step, which was my goal to be a full-time author, I made that decision to put freelancing to the back burner, focus on this one contract, which actually was not as bad as I thought. It actually was, especially at the beginning. It was very creative. Um, but I made that decision, and it was an important decision because it really slowed my life down, slowed my life all the way down. I wasn't chasing anymore, right? And I was able to live on that 120K, live, support my family, support my daughter, and live a really good life actually. Especially since I still kept a couple of freelance gigs, so I was making pretty good money, and that allowed me to travel to New York. Traveled to New York is to try to find an agent. That was the first thing I did. I traveled to New York. Um, I went to an agent conference. So essentially, you get to like pitch your book. It's like speed dating an agent. You have there are like 20 agents there. You go around the room. You have 5 minutes in front of each agent. And you could pitch your story. So I did that. I went to New York in August, August of 2018. Yes, August of 2018, something like that, right? So a year after I got my job, I was like, all right, boom. Like as soon as I committed full time, I was like, all right, let me go. So I went to this conference, spoke to, pitched my book, the book I was working on to five agents, to seven agents. Five of them said yes, send me the full manuscript. I came back to Toronto, sent the agents, the five agents, my full manuscript. And long story short, all five agents said no. They're like, no, 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 no. I got super lucky with the fifth agent. The fifth agent didn't just say no. She gave me harsh feedback, like really, really harsh feedback. She ate my book up. She's like, here are all the things that you're doing wrong and listed them. And these are things I thought I was strong at. Um, so I was devastated, to be completely honest with you. At first I was devastated and then got a little bit defensive, then angry. But I immediately flipped that and said, you know what? If if this agent took time to give me this much detailed feedback, it must be for a reason. They must have saw something in me that was worth them taking their time. Because trust me, the email was long. It was a very long email with all the things I was doing wrong. So I said, all right, I got the responses about November of 2018. January of 2019, I enrolled into a full-time novel writing class. 8 months, right? Like January to August, full-time novel writing class just to get better. And I workshopped the novel that would eventually become my first published novel. Again, these are decisions, right? We're talking passion versus paper, love versus money. I already committed. I made my commitment. I know what I wanted to do. And I want you also to keep track of the years that this is going on. I started my journey in 2008 when I graduated university, 2007 when I started writing my first novel. This is 2019. This is 11 years, right? This is 11 years. This is commitment. And I told you I'm doing other things, right? I'm still reaching milestones, making money, doing what I had to do, but I'm committed to this goal, right? Like this is my passion. I'm committed to this thing. So the college course that I took from January till August, that course was over $3,000. I paid that because I made that because I had the money. I had the money, right? Like the job that I took at the bank as a writer, as a copywriter, it allowed me to have that money. So $3,000 at that point in time actually for me was not a lot of money, but I invested in myself. Took the course for 8 months and learned more in those 8 months than I had maybe in my entire life of writing. I'll be honest with you. It elevated my writing so sharply. So it wasn't an accident that that novel became my first published book, right? So after that, I actually took another course after that, but it wasn't as transformative. But after that, pitched my novel, got my first publishing deal. That was with an indie publisher here in Toronto. And it was like it felt life changing, even though the money was not anything to talk about. I think they gave me how much was my advance for that? I don't remember, but it was small. When I remember, I'll tell you all. Like I said, I talk about money all the time, so it's not a big deal. But it was a super under 10K. It was under 10,000 for sure. Um, got that advance, but it wasn't about the money for me. It was about like the accomplishment because my goal was to get published, and I got published. Goal achieved, right? So I took that and I felt that I think I actually cried when I was home by myself and I cried and I called my daughter. I was like, yo, I just got published. Because she knew what I was trying to accomplish. So I called her and she's been with me on this entire journey. I told you I had her when I became a father at 18. I had her at 19. So she was with me on this entire journey. So I called her and I was like, yo, I got published. And she's like, yeah, right. I think she was at her grandmother's house, my mom's house at the time. Um, and yeah, so it was incredible, but it wasn't enough. remember, right? Like passion versus paper. Like my goal is to be full-time author. That means I need to make more money. These small advances ain't going to be enough. So wonderful, great. Got published, indie publisher. I'm so happy. But now I'm like, all right, like how does this work? What do I got to do? Um, got published. Now after I got published, because I ended up getting an agent. My agent emails me. He's like, "All right, what's your next book?" And I'm like, "I just got published. Like, are we? This is how this goes. Like, are we have to write another one?" He's like, "Yeah, like, let's go. You gotta get book deals now." Like um, the what he always drove home for me was that being published, you need to take advantage of some of the privileges. One of the privileges of being published is that you don't typically that I've read some stuff now where this is changing slightly now, but definitely back at like 5 years ago, you don't have to write a full book anymore. You could just pitch an idea. You could pitch a chapter, and here's what the rest of the book is going to be like, and get another book deal. So which means you get more money, you get another advance. So he's like, Kern, like let's go, like start writing. So I started writing this book, and then in the midst of me writing, Scholastic emailed me. They emailed me, and they're like, "Hey, we have this idea. We want to write books for middle grade boys. Would you be interested in writing a book for middle grade boys?" And I'm like, "I don't even write for middle grade, but this is Scholastic, so hell yeah! Like, let me go. Let's do this. Like let's go." So that opportunity came to me. Um, I never queried Scholastic. I never sent them one email. Like their editor saw my writing and wanted to work with me. So it was a blessing. Um, so that's how the Scholastic deal happened. Wrote the Scholastic book, or wrote the idea, the pitch, sent it to them. They loved it, got the Scholastic deal. Wonderful. I was still working on the book before that. So the book that my agent had asked me to write, right after my first publishing deal, we'll finish writing that book. We're finished writing a subset of that book. We pitched that. Then we got the Penguin deal, right? And that one was great. That one was because Penguin for me was a dream publisher. It was one of the publishers I had wrote down like on my vision board. Like Penguin was the top publisher on my vision board. So when that one happened, I remember exactly where I was. I was in the cafe writing in the cafe, and my agent called me, and he never called me. He always emails me. That's how we can communicate. And he called me. He's like, "Hey, like, you're not gonna believe who just wants a book." And I was like, "Who?" He's like, "Oh," and he told me it was Penguin, and I was going crazy. I was in the cafe, literally crying in the cafe. And people are looking at me like I'm crazy, but I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, and this happened in 2022. And again, I want to revert you back to the timeline again. I I made I made that decision in 2008 to turn down that job, right? Like I had the opportunity right out of university to make 80,000 a year if I stayed in New York City, and I turned that job down because I made a commitment to be an author, right? The 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 decisions that you make along the way, every decision matters if this is what you really want to do. Every decision matters. I made that decision, and not that just the decision, not just the decision. I can't even speak. Um, but beside the decision, I made a commitment to myself that this is what I want to do. All of your lives aren't like that. Like you're not. Everyone here has different circumstances. So again, I'm not telling you follow my actions. I'm telling you follow my thought process and figure out what commitment you are willing to make and how deep and how far you're going to go. I made that commitment because my circumstances allowed me to make that commitment. Right? Like yeah, it was still rough. I still had a infant daughter that I had to deal with. I was still paying rent. It was a difficult decision to make. So I'm not saying I made that decision lightly, but at the same time, I made that decision and made that commitment, and then I was able to follow through with it, right? And every decision I made after that was based on my initial commitment, that initial commitment. So then paying $3,000 to take a college course, that's an easy decision because I already made that commitment back in 2008. Going to New York, and spending all that money to go to the conference, pay for a hotel, travel from Toronto, like that's an easy decision because I made that commitment back in 2008. Right? Like whatever decision you make or whatever commitment you make, that has to be the foundation of every other decision you make after that. Because if your commitment is not the same as mine, then you have to make this different decisions, which is why I'm saying don't follow my actions, follow my thought process, right? So once we got to the Penguin deal, life was it became much different. And again, this was the Penguin deal happened in 2022. That book didn't come out till last year because most of you probably know the publishing process is super slow. And the Scholastic book came out last year too. So both book deals happened in 2022. I didn't see those books, like those books didn't come out till 2024. So my life, the best author year of my life happened in 2024, where I was actually literally able to travel all across America, all across Canada, even other parts of the world. I went to Hong Kong, I went to Norway. Um, I had just some incredible experiences, and um, you know, I always I always trace it back to that kind of original commitment, original decision. So that's when I say passion and paper, love and money, that's what I'm talking about. How are you going to um, make the commitment, whatever commitment that is, and then make decisions after that? And the last thing I'll say is I I have a piece on my newsletter on Writers or Superstars where I think I call it Writers versus Academia. And I talk about, I think writing, people should, us, people, meaning us writers, we should look at writing more as like, what do you call it? Like a trade. If you're a tradesperson, then you can take these steps, follow these steps, and you will become a plumber. Follow these steps, and you will become an accountant. Follow these steps, and like get this right certification, go to these schooling, blah 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 blah, and you will become some kind of doctor. I think writers. I think the path to being a writer and an artist, probably in general, but we're writers here. I think the path to being a writer could be somewhat as straightforward. I think if you do a few things, if you first of all like make that decision and that commitment that I told you about, yes, for sure. But then also just like make sure you're studying the craft, right? Like make sure you're really good at the craft. Make sure you're studying the industry. Like you need to know what's happening in the industry. It's not, I don't think it's I'm not saying you have to write to trends. I'm not saying that at all, but it's important for you to know what the trends are so you know what you're up against, right? And maybe sometimes those trends actually work in your favor and it's something that you do write about. So now it's like, all right, this is my time. Let me put out something because this is my time. The trend is actually in my favor. So it's important that you understand what's happening in the industry. That's super important. So study the craft, understand what's happening in the industry, and then really take detailed steps to figure out like once you set your goals, right? Like my goal, I want to be full-time author. But once you set your goals, like figure out what that's going to take to actually get to the money, to the revenue. If you're totally fine with I just want to make as much money as I need to make as a writer, not just an author. So you're willing to um uh, do courses and do consultations and stuff like that. Well, set that in motion. Take those steps and set that in motion because you can get there, right? And you can make that money. If your goal, like mine, is to just be full-time author, well then I just literally outlined what I did step by step to do that. You make your own outline. Make your own outline, but get there, right? Like set the goals and get there. I really think that if you look at your career. First of all, look at your art as a career first. So you're not just making decisions for today, you're making decisions for tomorrow. So look at it as a career. And as a career, you progress. Like you start entry level and then you progress. Like look at your career, your writer career in the same way. You start as an entry level author that you're learning the craft. Like I told you, it took me 6 years to write my first book because I was just learning. But then you progress. Like I got better with my second book because I started experimenting. I was like, oh, like I want to be able to write a little bit more fantastical, a little bit more commercial fiction, blah blah blah. So I was progressing in my writing and my craft, right? I got to a different level. I was able because I got better at my craft, because I understood the industry, because blah blah blah, right? Like I progressed and I sold more books. I got more people out to my book launch, blah blah, right? My next step was to get published. Here's how you need to get published. Here are the steps you need to take. Take those steps. We know the steps. There's so much information out there now that there's no real excuse not to know the steps to take to fulfill whatever goals that you have. So take those steps, you know? Um, and I'm still not there yet. I'm being honest. I know some people look at me as like a successful author. And yes, like last year I was fortunate, like sold. sold tens of thousands of books for the first time in a year, like, to be honest, in a few months, which was incredible. Like, I'm still kind of losing my mind over that. Like, to think that tens of thousands of people are reading my books are it's a wild, wild thought for me, you know? But it's also not enough, right? Like, it's still not all the way enough. I've spent my last almost 2 years now. No, it's been 2 years. Yeah, 2 years. Oh my gosh, it's been 2 years. I spent the last 2 years now as only doing author things. Like, I'm only doing, like, readings, I'm going to school visits, getting contracts, royalties, um, doing festivals, like, those I've spent the last 2 years only being an author, and it's been joyful, it's been, like, so much of what I wanted, but it's also been, like, being complete honest, it's also been a struggle too, especially financially, like, because the money is so scattered, like, you get an advance here this month, maybe get an advance, part of the advance, so you're maybe I'll make, like, 10,000 in a month or 12,000 in a month, but then go 3 months where I make, like, 5,000, and then I have 1 month where I make, like, 25,000 because it's, like, an advance comes in and I booked 3 schools and et cetera, so I do, like, 25, like, so it's so scattered, it's actually really it's not as, it's amazing, but it's also not as easy as it may seem, like, it's actually been a partially a struggle, especially I told you the amount of money I was making before, like, by the time I quit the bank job, like, the writing job at the copywriting job for that offshoot of the bank, I was making over 140,000 a year, right? That just from that one contract. Like, I was still doing other freelance jobs, so I left $140,000 a year to be like, "All right, full-time author," right? Like, "This is my goal, full-time author, so let me just jump into it, um, with both feet." But I jumped into that again, decisions. I jumped into it with both feet after making all that money for, like, 6 years, right? So I jumped into it with a safety net. So I was making a calculated decision, and I took a calculated risk. I didn't just jump in and be like, "Oh my gosh, I have $50 in my bank account. I'm gonna jump in and try to do this." No, I had tens of thousands of dollars in my bank account. I had a lot of savings, so I could take that risk and figure it out, right? So it was a journey, and again, you know, the when you're going passion versus paper, when you're thinking about money versus or love versus money, like, you're constantly making decisions. You have to think about that. Think about how those decisions are gonna affect you. So I think we'll stop there. This is my first live. How'd y'all enjoy it? Tell me, do you have any questions? Did you want me to talk about something else? Oh, I should also mention too, uh if you're not subscribed, I'm gonna be doing these a lot more of these lives. But what I'm gonna be doing actually, this is more like a general live. What I'm gonna be doing is more like breakdowns of specific things that I'm doing. So with craft, I told you we're doing a lot of craft with the Riders Are Superstars now. I'm doing be doing craft breakdowns, like what did the first page or first 5 pages of my book look like on my first draft, and what did it look like after it was edited by a Penguin editor? Like, how do we get there? Like, how do we get to it? This You're gonna see, like, vast differences. I'm gonna break those down. We have a book breakdown coming out tomorrow about how to write like, deep thematic stories. Um, like, what are the tactics that you could use to tell, like, when your stories, like, has deep themes, like, of purpose and, whatever, right? When you have very deep themes, how do you write those stories still in a very simple and relatable way? That we have that craft breakdown coming out tomorrow. So we do a lot of live stuff, just like doing craft breakdowns. They're gonna get craft breakdowns in the newsletter. Um, there's have a lot of things coming up. The newsletter too, and this is like I have all my newsletters for the most part for the last 3 years has been free. I've just added a paid version for those, like, super deep craft breakdowns. So for those deep craft breakdowns, they are paid. Um, but I put out so much stuff on my free content as well that you'll have a lot of information even if you're just free. Like, that you're going to get a lot of stuff regardless. But again, if you do want to get, like, super super into the craft breakdowns, that is paid. And we already started, but we have some stuff coming out tomorrow again. I'm also too like giving a lot of insight into the day to day of an author, like how long does it take me to get paid for my royalties? What do my advances look like? What do my contracts look like? I'm giving a lot of that information out. So again, like stay tuned to the newsletter. I'm really ramping it up. I'm also like, no, I'm someone that if you want to talk to me, like we're all writers here. If you want to talk to me, like reach out. I'm not one of those people. I don't charge for like initial conversations. If you want to just talk, you want a 30-minute conversation with me, I'll probably send out put it in a chat. I'll put a link to my calendar. I'll put a link to my calendar in a chat. Not this chat because I don't have it set up yet. My first live. Be patient. But I'll put it in the chat like for my through my newsletter. So subscribe if you haven't. But I'll put it through the chat. Like my calendar, just reach out. Like we could talk for 30 minutes. You know what I'm saying? If we want to work together more deeply after that, of course, I do consultations. I do, I do editing, but developmental editing, not copy editing, developmental editing. I've helped people write book proposals and gotten them agents. Like I do all that stuff as well, right? Like if you want to get into it fully, for sure. But if you just want to talk to me for 30 minutes, like there's no charge for that. Like get on a call. Let's go. I love talking to authors. I love talking to writers. You don't have to pay me for that stuff. Like let's just have a conversation. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like let's do that. So I'm gonna send out my link. Hit me up. Let's get into it. Like I'd love to hear what kind of projects you're working on. I'd love to hear if you have any questions about the projects. Um, Listen, I just told you my story. I have written self-published books, self-published novels. I've written novels that have been published with independent publishers. I've written novels that have been published with Penguin and Scholastic. I've also created communities. I built a community on Medium where we were getting close to at our high point. We're getting 40,000 views per month. So I understand what it means to build community. I'm here on Substack. We got 5,000 subscribers here on Substack. I understand what it means to build community. Um, I really understand the publishing and literature. I study it like daily. I study it. So talk to me, like use me as a reference. I really don't care. I want you to. I'm encouraging you. Like I'm not someone that's gonna charge you just for conversations. I think that's ridiculous. So message me. Like let's go. You know what I'm saying? Like I want like 10,000 more phone calls, 10,000 more messages. Like let's go. Let's have these conversations. Again, I'll throw my calendar invite in the chat, like my newsletter chat, not this chat. And y'all just book the time, and we'll talk it through. I really can't wait to talk to more of you personally and see what projects you're working on. And if I can help, I'll help. If you just need to talk to someone to run ideas through, I'll do that. If you have small samples for me to read, I'm willing to read small samples too. Trust me, I talk to authors all the time. I enjoy this. So don't feel like, oh, like just because I don't know what you're thinking. Don't feel anything. I'm telling you, reach out to me. The conversation is free. So, um, but yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed this. Did y'all enjoy this? Was this cool? Was there something more you wanted, less you wanted? I think I could see, can I see messages? Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. Oh, you're welcome, Stephanie. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, especially the money. I'm telling you, like, again, y'all want, if you want personal conversations with me, I'll tell you like precise dollar amounts. Seriously, don't, I'm not hesitant about that. I'll tell you all about the money. Like, I'll tell you exactly how much money you can make, or I have made, and why I think I've made that money. I'll probably do another live on that, like commercial, potential of projects. That might be a good idea. I think I'll do that. I'll do a live on the commercial potential of projects. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. Um, but yeah, I'll tell you about the money. Like I think it's important. I don't think it should be this like taboo thing with writers, especially we don't have that. We don't have that opportunity. Yeah, you're welcome, Chelsea. You're welcome. Um, but yeah, this was my first live. Thank you for all for joining. My newsletter comes out tomorrow, so it's a craft one. So again, if you're into craft, if you want to keep learning, trust me, jump on that one, and see if you like it. Like really take it in and see if you like it. We're doing those a couple times a month, um, and I'll be doing these lives much more often. But enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Thank you, Stephanie. Yes, yes, yes. The entrepreneurial spirit. I know it's weird calling myself an entrepreneur, but yeah, I know that's what Apparently that's what I am. So I'll take it. I'll take it. But y'all enjoy your Saturday and we'll I'll probably do another live next Saturday. So check your inboxes.